Now, those of you that know me know that boat travel is not my thing. I mentioned in episodes that for Aaron, it's heights and being at height is something he's really not comfortable with. For me, it's any form of boat or being in open bodies of water. Reason for that is I've got an irrational fear of drowning. I say irrational, if I'm not able to be in control in terms of, touching my feet on the floor, for example, it just doesn't sit well with me at all. I'm always get into a state where I start hyperventilating if I get into big bodies of water and I'm not able to, touch my feet on the ground or lean on something. But that's a whole different podcast, that's a whole different story. But in order to get from the islands to island, the main method of transport was boat. And I'd learnt quite a cool thing from someone who said if you ever on boat travel, no matter how bumpy or rough it is, if you just focus on one point in the distance, do not move your eyes from that one point. Because you'll probably look like a bit of a crazy person, but if you focus on that point, you'll find that should then negate any roughness of the sea or body of water that you happen to be in. Now, if I'd have known that in the Rio de la Plata when we crossed from Uruguay to Argentina, my life might have been a bit better. But alas, no, not the case. And it actually worked quite well. The crossing from Santa Cruz to the Isla Isabela was quite decent. About 2.5 hour journey, 2.5 hour journey. So quite a long time there to be on a boat, but it was relatively straightforward, even leaving at 6:30 in the morning. Also, thankfully, the nice lady with the hostel in the first island let us keep our main bags in the hostel. We'd be going back there in a few days' time, but we just didn't want to be dragging around all our big bags around the Galapagos. Now, the Isla Isabela, we got off, we checked into the hostel there, all four of us. It's Jess, Mark, myself, Aaron. We booked in to do a boat tour the following morning. There's a boat tour where you could go around and look at various mangroves and bits and pieces like that. So we booked in to do that the following day. But in order to make the most of our time, we hired some bicycles when we arrived, and we just went for a massive cycle up and down around the town and visiting some beaches, La Playita, visiting the local church, the Iglesia Católica Cristo Salvador, the Pozo de los Flamingos. It's quite a place where flamingos, quite a lot of flamingos gather. Unfortunately, there weren't many when we were there. Plus, Aaron and I had seen the Flamingo Lake in Bolivia, so we weren't too upset that we didn't see many. And just had a good cycle around town for most of the day, enjoying the beaches, enjoying the bikes, having a laugh. Again, taking advantage of a good old menu del dia. No lobster this time, unfortunately. And just having a good old laugh. Also, walking down to the harbour front and looking at, I think there's a place called the Concha de Perla, which was, or is, I should say, I think it's called Pearl Shell. That's the translation. And you can have a walk around there and you can do a little bit of snorkelling and, there's loads of seals and stuff like that as well around there. So that was all cool. It's, again, a nice, pleasant island. Loads of, I say loads of things to see and do. There's always things to see and do on the Galapagos, but if you like your tranquility, you like not having a lot of people there, you like being a bit in the backside of nowhere, you're going to love the Galapagos. The following day, we jumped onto this boat, and it was only about 10 of us on this boat, and it's a tiny, tiny, tiny boat, to say the least. And we went on a little tour. We went up and down a couple of... pretty much on the boat, we traced the steps that we'd done on the bicycles the previous day, so up and down the coast. And we ended up sort of hanging around the Islot Las Tintereras, these set of islets or islets. I still need to figure out how to pronounce that word, just off Isla Isabela itself. So we ended up around there, and this is where we saw quite a few cool things. But on the way there, a crazy thing happened. An absolute crazy thing happened. Bear in mind, this boat's not the biggest boat in the world. We were heading to our sort of mangrove destination, and the captain, I'll call him, noticed a manta ray that was coming towards the boat. Now manta rays, stingrays, etc., they're not exactly dangerous animals, but manta rays are big, as we'd spotted from the plane coming into Galapagos. And I shit you not, this thing went under the boat. Now, admittedly, the boat wasn't the biggest boat in the world, but it will still tell you how big this manta ray was. Where the boat wasn't that wide, you could see out of both ends. You could see pretty much over side to side. And at that snapshot in time, if you look to the right, you would see the manta ray. If you look to the left, you would see the manta ray. Literally covered, I don't know, maybe 10 times, the width of the boat. It was unbelievable, knowing that you just had this creature straight underneath you at that period of time. And you could look at both sides of the boat, and it's the same down creature. Just absolutely remarkable. Little things like that, I don't think we'll ever forget. when we talk about these stories, or we share these stories with people. It's things like that you just won't forget. Just phenomenal. Well, about 10 minutes later, we ended up in a sort of mangrove area, bits and pieces like that. Now, this is where we had a bit of free time. So, we could get in the water. It wasn't ridiculously deep, deep enough. You get in the water, you can have a swim around, you can sit on a couple of the, little tiny islands, look at the creatures. We were getting up close and personal with, and it still makes me laugh to this day, a creature called blue-footed boobies and red-footed boobies. I'm in my 30s and that name just shows how immature I am. I just love the names. But again, funky little birds, and surprise, surprise, had blue feet, red feet, etc., etc. So we were getting up close and personal with them. But when it was time to have a bit of free time swimming around, everyone's jumped in. I haven't jumped in. I'm sat in the boat. I'm not moving. I'm an okay swimmer, although if I try and tread water, I sink. Don't ask me why. But I'm an okay swimmer. But I'm not getting in the water. Not getting in the water. I'm happy to be in the Galapagos. Not doing it. I've got Aaron shouting at me from the boat. He's up, Rob, get in. Come on, man. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Get in. Mark's going, geez, mate. Get in, mate. Not the end of the world. And it was Jess who came back onto the boat very briefly and said to me, I still remember these words to this day. And I won't do the accent, but she said, Rob, you're in the Galapagos. How many times in your lifetime are you going to be in the Galapagos? If you don't get in the water right now, you are going to regret that decision for the rest of your life. Because you'd be the guy that was in the Galapagos and you know how to swim and you didn't get in the water. You're going to regret that for the rest of your life. Get some little armbands on if you're not comfortable. Get some armbands on. Get in that water. And just at that second, that really resonated with me. And it sticks to this day. You've got to take advantage of your opportunities. And Jess was spot on. We travelled all the way around the world. We're in the Galapagos. And I'm refusing to get in the water because of a fear of drowning, a fear of, the element of the unknown as such. So I said, yeah, fuck it. Jess is absolutely spot on. Got my snorkel ready, because it was a snorkeling area as well. I got my snorkel ready, said to the guy to give me some armbands, just for extra protection. So he gave me some armbands. Brilliant. I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to jump straight in. Of course, what silly bollocks here done, he left his snorkel in his mouth when he jumped in. So I've jumped in. I'm going down like a stone, as you do when you jump into a body of water. And I've taken on all this seawater like an absolute idiot. And this is where there's a really, cool thing and not a cool thing here. Had my goggles on, snorkel, etc. Armbands in hand. Now I've jumped into the water. Apart from taking on a bunch of seawater, which I wouldn't recommend, I've jumped down into the water. And I've looked up what goes above my head, and it's perfect timing. What goes above my head? 2 massive, what I believe were, leatherback turtles. Straight across my head. Elegantly gliding in the water. I'm looking up at this. In that split second, despite the seawater that was entering into my gullet, I'm looking up at that, going, great decision. Thank you, Jess. Great decision. Well played. And in that split second, I've risen back up to the surface. The turtles are gone. I'm back up at the surface. I'm coughing and spluttering everywhere. I think people are laughing at me because you don't jump into the damn water with your snorkel on. I plop the armbands on. That's it. I'm in the water. I'm there. I'm involved now. I've seen some leatherback turtles. Everyone's like, that's amazing. Oh, yeah, superb. Best decision ever. I could have quit there. Happy days. There's always a key thing I take from that story. Take advantage of opportunities when you get them. If you've got the opportunity to do something, do it. If you get the opportunity to say something, say it. If you get the opportunity to go somewhere, go. Take opportunities, no matter what you do. I don't regret that at all. Great decision. The other funky thing about the little reefs where we were is that what the guy was doing, the main tour guide, had located a couple of reef sharks right below, well, funny enough, one of the reefs. And he was getting people, he would push your head down there, he would swim down with you, so you hold your breath for like 10-15 seconds, you can see these reef sharks, up close, you're talking like a metre or 2 away, and then head back up. So we all done that. So you're getting your head pushed down and your ears are popping and, you get down there, but you just see these reef sharks just, a metre or 2 away, and they're chilling, they don't give a shit. But again, just seeing them up close and personal is wonderful. Just a variety of, loads of other birds and bits and bobs that we would have, seen. And that was a great trip. That really was. And that was pretty much the Isla Isabela done. The following day, it would be a case of getting over to the Isla San Cristobal via the main island, Santa Cruz. We're up in the morning, a bit groggy in the morning. Not been drinking or anything like that, but it's just been, exhausting day the day before, so we're all a bit tired. Plus, bear in mind the boats are leaving at 6:30 in the morning. So the first boat between the Isla Isabela and Santa Cruz was all right. The funny thing about it was that Mark also doesn't like boat travel. So him and myself were at the back, just like looking either at each other or looking out at something. The first boat was okay. Got to Isla Santa Cruz. We've had a very light lunch. Didn't want to overdo it. The weather looks like it's turning a little bit. We didn't overdo it. And then got on the boat to the Isla de San Cristobal. Now, it's about lunchtime. 12 o'clock-ish. We're queuing for the boat. We've had a couple of snacks, nothing major. We've not taken on liquid, a lot of liquid, maybe a small bottle of water between us. The weather looks iffy. Looks like this could be a bit of a rough ride. We're queuing for the boat. Behind us is mother and child. Obviously, they're getting on the boat as well. But the child's, he's getting peckish. So his mother, in infinite wisdom, gives him a bottle of strawberry milkshake. And we've kind of looked at each other and all gone, that's not going to end very well. I think we've all made that mistake before. If you're going on a roller coaster or boat of some sort, do not have a substantial meal or indeed lactose products before you get on. Because if it is a bumpy ride, you're screwed. We've just looked at each other and gone, that's not going to end well. Got on the boat. It's not, and again, these boats are not the biggest boats in the world. I mean, maybe they fit about 20 to 30 people. They're decent for the job. Mark and Jess, Aaron and Jess are sat down. They're okay with boat travel. They're fine. They're sat down. Mark and I sit down. Mark and I are looking at each other. We're opposite. He's on the right side of the boat. I'm on the left side. Not going to start chanting. We're looking at each other. Mother and child get on. They're the last people to get on, so they're at the back of the boat. They're right at the back, but they're facing forward. Mark and I facing each other on the left, on the right. We're looking at each other. These people, mother and child, are at the end. Boat sets off. It's a 2.5-hour journey. Bear in mind, this is a 2.5-hour journey. Now we're heading to the Puerto Baquerizo Moreno on the Isla de San Cristobal. No less than about 5 minutes in, the strawberry milkshake was everywhere. This kid had absolutely chundered it everywhere. It's on the floor. He's covered in it. His mum's covered in it. Luckily, where we were on the boat, we're actually in the outside section of the boat, so we're not in a compartment. We're not inside. We're not restricted. Now, Aaron and Jess, they're kind of laughing because they knew it was going to happen, but they're also laughing because, as well as Mark and I not enjoying boat travel, we both don't do very well with sick. Now, bear in mind, Mark and I have learnt the same thing, i.e., you've got to focus on a point when you're on a boat, and this journey's just got a hell of a lot tougher because we're looking at each other, but in our peripheral vision, you can also see what's going on with the kid. And at the same time, we've both caught what's happened. I mean, number one, you can smell it, but we've caught the state of the kid. And I mean, this kid's pretty much pink. He's covered in it. And it's gnarly. It's disgusting. We've both looked at it and we've both instantly felt sick. I can see Mark's puffing his cheeks. He's like, ooh. I've made the noise as well. I'm like, ooh. It ponged. Absolutely ponged. It's everywhere. No one really can do anything about it. Probably the most difficult boat journey I think I've ever done in my life, without a shadow of a doubt. Aaron and Jess are pretty much crying with laughter. They're laughing more so at Mark and myself for really not enjoying that 2.5 hours at all. All I would say, if you're ever on a boat, do not have a lactose heavy meal or take on extreme amounts of lactose before you travel. Chances are you'll see it again very quickly. A tough 2.5 hours later, we finally got to the Isla de San Cristobal. Immediately had to go for a beer and have a laugh about what we'd just gone through. It's disturbing even trying to think about it again. We've gone for a beer. And we also knew on this island, so the Isla de San Cristobal's famed for a couple of things. Number one, it's the island where most seals go. But also, you can take a boat up to, I'm not going to say it's not even an island, but just a rock formation in the middle, pretty much in the middle of the ocean. I think it's called the León Dormido or the Roca León Dormido, and it's basically where there's loads of sharks. Sometimes I think whales as well, if I'm not mistaken. So we knew we were going to do a boat tour there. And it's pretty much straightforward stuff. Number one, we had a beer when we got there. Number two, we then booked onto the tour for the following day. We found a great chicken shack that evening as well. We had a good old laugh. Watched the sunset go across the island, which again was equally as cool. Not quite as good as Lake Titicaca, but was equally as good. Now, as if we hadn't had enough of being on boats and people being sick on boats, the tour the following day had a bit of everything. It was a great tour. First of all, it was well worth the $70, $80 that we paid. It was an all-day tour. You leave first thing in the morning. You take about an hour's boat ride because you're looking at a couple of, you're looking at the rock formations as you go along. You get quite a decent guided boat tour here. And this was a proper boat, nice big boat. Again, there's only about 10, 15 people on the boat, so not a big party, but you do all your, you go around, you jump in the water a few times, all of that sort of stuff, and you can see a bunch of animals, happy days. Then you get food on the boat, you get lunch on the boat, and then you get a boat ride back into town. And that was cool. We headed over to the little rock formation where we were meant to go. And the reason why this little formation is famed is it's where the Galapagos hammerheads go. Now, sometimes if you're lucky, you can get up close and personal to them. Sometimes they don't go quite so high up on the surface. So when we got there, again, it's pretty choppy. The thing I remember this time about jumping in, now, this time I didn't have an issue jumping in. We're all in wetsuits. Number one, it was freezing cold, the water, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely freezing cold. Number two, no issue jumping in, because this time I took a life ring with me. Not content with the armbands. No. Because we're in the middle of the ocean, and it was quite choppy in terms of the waves, even in hindsight, most of the experienced swimmers in the groups, I mean, Aaron's a very good swimmer, even the tour guides, very good swimmers, even they said it after the end of the day that the swimming that they'd done around the Leon Dormido, that was a tough swim. So I'm kind of glad, that I hold my hands up and I took my life ring with me. I was having a great time, not an issue, just bobbing along, right at the rear doing my own thing. But what was cool, after getting in the water and realising it was damn cold, was you're surrounded pretty much by schools of fish. You've got sharks that are, some of them look like they were hunting, all of these crazy things. And people were going down into the schools of fish and all that sort of, crazy stuff. It was really good to see. But when you got right up close and personal to the rock formation itself, that was when you could put your head under the water. And if you looked hard enough, just looked all the way down, you could see these schools of what are scalloped hammerheads just going round and round and round. I mean, no word, it must have been hundreds of them. Just round and round and round, a school of scalloped hammerheads. Round. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I don't think those hammerheads are anywhere else in the world, by the way. Just insane. Absolutely insane. Yes, there were a bunch of other sharks and fish and bits and pieces as well. Completely forgot what they were. Just remember seeing the scalloped hammerheads. We've got back on the boat. Everyone's, quite a few people are exhausted because of the toughness of the swim. We went back towards mainland for a little bit, had one more session of jumping in the water and having a, swim around. Didn't see too much snorkeling that time, to be honest, but it is what it is. And then that was lunchtime. Lunch came and went. It was very pleasant. It was a relatively light meal. The boat wasn't exactly bobbing along. It was quite quiet waters, put it that way. But of course, someone decided to eat too much, and I got a feeling someone decided to drink a little bit too much beer. No one that we knew, someone completely random that joined the tour. So the minute their food and beer went down, it came back up again, and we all pretty much all started laughing. Jess, Mark, Aaron and myself just started laughing because of the boat trip we just taken. Obviously felt sorry for the poor person that was, being sick, not nice for them. But yeah, we were laughing as well. And Mark and I think exchanged a few 4-letter rude words, shall we say. Then we done the same thing we've done on the previous boat. We just focused on a spot, focused on a spot and, got back to town safely. That's pretty much the Galapagos done. That evening, we again watched a fantastic sunset across the bay whilst, I'm not going to say playing with the seals, but we were looking at all the seals on the main beach. By the way, there was a lot of them. Number two, yes, they really did stink an awful lot, especially when they're, farting and burping and whatever seals do. And then that was that. The following day, we headed back over to Puerto Ayora on Isla Santa Cruz, all of us. Mark and Jess's flight was that afternoon. They went. Our flight was the following day. So we went for one more. We said our goodbyes. I think we had one more session of lobster that evening. Had one more walk around the main town, Puerto Ayora. And that was the Galapagos done. When we reflect on it, there was two things here. Number one, we knew Christmas was coming up. It was in 2 days' time, 3 days' time. So we knew there'd be a bit of luxury happening in Panama because we splurged a little bit for Panama. But I think when we sat down, we looked at it and we said, is the Galapagos achievable on a budget? I'd say the answer is yes. It's not impossible. It would depend on your perceptions. Did you see everything that you needed to see or wanted to see? Well, if you'd have said to us, you'd see giant tortoises, you would see loads of hammerhead sharks, you'd see manta rays, loads of different iguanas and other bits and pieces like that. If you'd have said to us beforehand, would you take that? I think we would have said yes. And when we look back on it now, it was a remarkable 6-7 days in the Galapagos. Highly recommend it. You can do it on a budget. Yeah, it'd probably be ace to do it on a boat tour as well, purely because then you can see, you can go to the other islands, the Isla Pinta or the Isla Machena or the Isla Santiago or the Isla Fernandina, all of these sorts of other places as well, where again the fauna is different. You can see different types of tortoises, different types of wildlife, other bits and bobs like that. That was the Galapagos done. We headed back to the airport. Pretty sure the cab driver ripped us off there by charging us a bit more than he should have done, but didn't really give a shit. It's not the end of the world. And then that was that. It was a case of heading back to the wonderful Guayaquil. We're not going to pick up the episode in Guayaquil. There's no point. We literally landed. We checked back into the same hostel that we had stayed in. We knew how to get to the Malecon, or the boardwalk and the lighthouse. We just done that. So sort of wore ourselves down by walking up and down there. Went back to the hostel, stayed there for the evening, a couple of beers, knowing that the following day we would be flying into Panama for the start of Christmas and for a little bit of luxury. And that's where we're going to pick up in the next episode. It's goodbye South America, hello Central America. Let's see what we can find in the home of Panama, the Maya and the Aztecs. Hasta luego.